This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. It's finally game day. We've finally gotten to game day, and I want to put out there what there is to watch, not just from a Cleveland Browns perspective, but for a AFC North perspective, because we're going to go through the first window of today with the Browns not playing at 1 o'clock. The Browns play at 4 o'clock. So, there's some other things that happened. Now, the first thing that went down this week so far was that the Ravens played the Kansas City Chiefs, and what was an exciting game for the opener. It wasn't necessarily, I would say, the most well executed game. Like, it was about as decently executed as you could expect for a week one matchup. It still had that regular week one sloppiness jank to it, where guys are missing throws that they probably won't miss in the peak of the season. But all in all, my takeaway from that, Kansas City, still Kansas City. Xavier Worthy adds a very dangerous dynamic and youthful dynamic to that offense that is admittedly getting older, right? You talk about Travis Kelce. I don't even think he was that much of a factor in that game, but Travis Kelce, I mean, he's getting older. He was drafted in 2013. It's almost over 10 years ago. So, if you're Kansas City, you got to figure out other players that could step up in those roles that you're losing guys at. That defense is young. Pat Mahomes is still relatively young. So Kansas City going to be Kansas City. There's no way around it. They're still pretty good. They're still the champs. The only thing is nobody in NFL history has ever three-peated a Super Bowl. And there's a reason for that. It's very tough to do, especially now with the seasons being even longer. It makes it even tougher for a three-peat to happen. And in my personal opinion, if Pat does that, then he's the GOAT if he gets a three-peat. But Baltimore, offensive line looks a little shaky for Baltimore. And I think defensively, they look fine. I think they recovered from the losses that they had in free agency. Safety didn't seem like a big issue for them. They got corners. Their linebackers, Trenton Simpson, I thought played well. Defensive line looked fine enough. So I think they recovered from the losses they had there. They'll be similar to what they were last year defensively. Now, if they reach that peak, that's going to be down to what that new defensive coordinator looks like. But if they're running the same plan that they ran last year, it should be able to work for them. Offensively, offensive line for Baltimore looks shaky. We were expecting that. They got rookies and young players playing on that offensive line. Even if you like a rookie offensive tackle like I do with Roger Rosengarten, you can't expect a rookie offensive tackle to be great year one. It's one of those positions where we still allow time for development, and for good reason, right? It takes a while for an offensive lineman to adjust to the physical pace of the NFL. The Derrick Henry thing, it looked kind of like what I thought it would look like, which is a bit of a mesh of two worlds. It doesn't really work as well as people anticipated it does. We'll see if they fix that during the season, but right now it doesn't feel great. I mean, the Ravens still are the same team they were last year. No wide receivers. They're going to lean on Lamar Jackson a lot to produce in the passing game and in the run game, and it's basically the Lamar Jackson show. Nothing changed about that. They're still the same team, but I think slightly worse than they were last year because they had a better offensive line last year. So that's where Baltimore is. Pittsburgh's playing the Atlanta Falcons, which I find to be an interesting game because I think these two teams are the exact same version of themselves, except for Atlanta might be the better version of what Pittsburgh is. But Pittsburgh has stability and seriousness on the sideline when it comes to Mike Tomlin, where Atlanta's Atlanta, man, and I can't trust Atlanta, right? And that's why I think Atlanta's probably going to lose this game. They're the better team, but they're probably going to lose this game. But what I mean by Pittsburgh and Atlanta are similar. Atlanta is relying on a older quarterback who might be over the hill to be an upgrade over a guy who was a disaster last year. And they're hoping that that small upgrade at quarterback pays off giant dividends when it comes to the win-loss total. Pittsburgh's doing the same thing on a smaller, cheaper scale with a worse switch, in my opinion, right? They're going from Kenny Pickett, who I thought was better than Desmond Ridder, right? And they're going to Russell Wilson, whereas the Falcons are going from Desmond Ridder to Kirk Cousins, which I think is a little bit more of a substantial difference, where Kirk Cousins going from Kenny Pickett to Russell Wilson. I'm not convinced that that's the big difference that everybody wants it to be. Also, they both got young guys in there ready to step up, and that the franchise is hoping that they could be the future. Justin Fields is that for Pittsburgh, and then Michael Penix is that for Atlanta. I don't really believe in either of these two to be franchise quarterbacks, but I would rather bet on Michael Penix being the franchise quarterback, despite I think these two are the same age. But despite all of that, I would rather lean on Michael Penix. I think there's a little bit more there. With Justin Fields, I feel like we've seen it all with Justin Fields, and I don't think there's much more to discover with him. He's just not that good, and he's not going to be that useful, and I understand why people still try to make it work because of the talent that he has, but it's just he can't see the field well, and I think that's just an inescapable flaw for a quarterback to have. That being said, that's where Pittsburgh is at. And also, Russ is questionable for this week 1 game, as far as I know. So you might see Justin Fields out there, and that might be a good thing for Pittsburgh, to be honest with you, because I think with Russ out there, they're going to have a lot of pressure to throw the ball more than they would with Justin Fields. And I think they're a better team the less they throw the ball. And I think you're more likely to throw the ball less with Justin Fields than you are Russell Wilson. It's going to be interesting to see. Look, I have no faith in Pittsburgh's offense. I think they're going to be the same bad offense they've been the last few years. I don't think that's going to change because I really see no good reason for it to change, right? If your whole thing with Russell Wilson was that he was in a bad situation in Denver and he didn't have the wide receivers around him or the offensive line around him to be good, what changed in Pittsburgh? He has a worse offensive line and worse receivers, at least worse depth at receiver. Like, I would take Marvin Mims over the number 2 receiver for Pittsburgh, whoever that might be, Van Jefferson. And the argument for improvement also relies on like Arthur Smith. And the argument for Arthur Smith was that he just didn't have the quarterback play to be successful in Atlanta. And that's why the offense looked like that. And I think there's some holes in that logic, to be honest with you. But even if I do accept that that was the case with Arthur Smith as offensive coordinator in Atlanta, what's different about Pittsburgh? You go from Desmond Ridder to Russell Wilson, who's been cooked for 2 years, so bad that teams are willing to pay in excess of $100 million for him not to play football for them anymore. Or like Justin Fields, who the Bears were just so happy to pawn off for like a 6th-round pick. I don't really see like a reason that it should be changing, because like even if you think that these guys could be successful in different situations, these aren't situations where you would assume these guys would be successful in. So I'm not a real big fan of what Pittsburgh's got going on there. Cincinnati plays New England. Cincinnati is one of those teams that I find to be quite boring. Look, the Jamar Chase thing, right? Will he hold out for week 1? Will he not? I think he's going to play. Even if he doesn't play, they should beat New England. And if he doesn't play week 1, he'll probably play week 2. It seems like he's going to play ball here at some point here for the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think the Cincinnati Bengals are probably the safest bet in the AFC. Like, I would say they're going to win 10 games. Like, I'm pretty confident in it. Whereas Baltimore, I worry about what happens if they have an injury at offensive line. They're already down 3 starters from last year. What if they get down 4 starters? That could become untenable. Lamar Jackson's running around and getting hit a lot, from what it seems like, because he doesn't have wide receivers who can get open in the structure of the offense, and he doesn't have an offensive line that can block well enough for him to have time for those wide receivers to get open in the structure of the offense, which means he has to scramble and put a lot on himself. Like, they're running Lamar Jackson already at 120% for week 1. And that makes me worried for his health, because if he gets hurt, that's it for Baltimore. They really got nothing going on offensively other than Lamar Jackson. And I think that's a flaw for them in the playoffs as well, and why they don't have success is because it's always been too much on Lamar Jackson. That being said, if he stays healthy, they'll be a good team. But, it is what it is there. So I think Cincinnati, that's why I think they're the safest bet, right? Cleveland, we don't know what to expect from Deshaun Watson, and I think that could drastically change their ceiling. I don't know what Cleveland's floor is. I think it's probably 9 to 10 wins. Like at the worst, Cleveland has 9 to 10 wins. So like their floor and ceiling doesn't drop that low. Nobody in the AFC North's floor is under 9 wins, to be honest with you. You can get 9 wins and easily be in last place. But with Cleveland, the ceiling is a bit unpredictable. The same thing could be true for Baltimore. Their ceiling is unpredictable. With Cincy, their ceiling is like 11 wins. Maybe they get to 12, but I don't think they get to 12 this year. 11 wins. And their floor is like 10. So they're going to be in second place, in my opinion, no matter what. And if a bunch of teams crumble around them, they'll probably be in first place. Baltimore, I said they got that high variance thing going on. Cleveland has that high variance thing going on. And in Pittsburgh, 9-win team. Like they feel like a 9-win team to me. Good defense. Offense is going to be horrible, but they got Mike Tomlin. They'll be competent, and competence wins you football games in the NFL. Now let's talk about the Browns going into Dallas. Now, I've already previewed this game pretty extensively. A couple of matchups to think about. Myles Garrett going up against a rookie. So it's going to be interesting to see how both Cleveland and Dallas decide to protect that left tackle position. This is something I talk about before this video, but a couple days ago, where I was talking about the triangle of protection that you're going to want to have around your left tackle. The Browns are going to employ David Njoku, Jerome Ford, and Joe Bitonio to protect whoever is at left tackle. I wonder what that plan is for Dallas. Does this mean we see more Zeke than Rico Dowdle? My bad, I mispronounced that. But Rico Dowdle, is that going to be the case because Zeke can pass protect a little bit better, right? So you're going to have him in more, even though Rico is the better running back for Dallas. Like they got a little bit of a decision to make there. But it's going to be interesting to see how they go about it and how that affects them when it comes to the Browns pass rush, and if that's going to even be enough to hold the dam, because the Browns have several guys who are playing at a very high level. But that's kind of the preview around the AFC North before we jump into this Sunday slate of games. We finally made it, y'all. We finally made it. I'm excited. You know, I just really want to see what this team does this year, right? I think that so much can happen this year for this team, and they're so talented that they can achieve so much that to me, it's a different kind of excitement. Usually I'm giddy and super amped. This year, I'm more reserved with my excitement, to be honest with you. I'm like, I want to see them confirm what I believe about them, would confirm what they showed us last year. And more importantly, I'm interested to see what they do against those top tier opponents once they really get the ball rolling, right? 6-7 weeks into the season, you're playing Philadelphia, you're playing Cincinnati, you're playing Baltimore. I want to see the Browns, once the ball is rolling, once they are comfortable in this new offense, once there are no real early season woes, working yourself into it type things, what this team is really going to look like. That's when I'm going to start really getting like visibly excited. But right now, you know, I'm not going to be surprised if the Browns come out here, start 5-0. I wouldn't be surprised if they started 3-2, right? I'm not going to be surprised by anything that they do at this point, but really I want to see what they do in that second stretch of the season. But still excited to just watch real football again. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.